January 3, 1942. It's pilot David Tex Hill's first mission for the Flying Tigers. Tex Hill left the Navy to volunteer. He's eager for action. He and 3 other American pilots aimed their P-40 Tomahawks toward the Japanese airfield at Raheng, Thailand. The plan? Arrive at dawn and devastate enemy aircraft on the ground.
Jack Newkirk, who was the squadron leader, and he had Bert Crispin on his wing, and Jim Howard leading the element, and I was on Jim's wing.
Shortly after takeoff, one of the P-40s radios in.
Bert Crispin had engine trouble, so he had to turn back.
Crispin heads for home. The 3 remaining P-40s continue on. They're over the target at first light. They make a left turn to align with the field and begin a shallow dive. The pilots line up one behind the other, about 950 feet apart, known as a string formation.
They would bend it over, which means to put your airplane in a dive, and accelerate as they came down to strafe the aircraft on the ground.
Their 1,200 horsepower Allison engines scream as they dive towards the airfield at 300 miles per hour. Jim Howard strafes the area, raking the airfield with machine gun fire. Tex Hill dives after him, preparing his own strafing run. But the run is cut short. Tex sees a Ki-27 Nate at 10 o'clock streaking in right onto Howard's tail. Jim Howard strafes the airfield, and the Nate pumps lead into him. Tex closes on the Nate's tail and lines him up in his crosshairs.
Our ammo was loaded with every 5th round was a tracer. So it looked like just a big hose, you know, going out there. So I just looking right through the windscreen and following those tracers, and it blew up right in front of me.
He blasts through the churning fireball. At the other end of the airfield, Jim Howard pulls up from his strafing run, intact. It's Tex's first victory, but there's no time to celebrate. Another Nate is at 12 o'clock high, directly in front of him.
When I saw that other guy who was starting to make a pass on me, then I turned into him head on.
It's a defining moment for Tex, when he would demonstrate perfectly the strengths of the P-40 over the Japanese Nate. The P-40 was built by the Curtiss Aircraft Company in Buffalo, New York. Claire Chennault obtained 100 that were originally destined for the British RAF. The P-40B was rugged, could reach 378 miles per hour, and was heavily armed with 2 50 caliber nose-mounted machine guns and 4 wing-mounted 30 calibers. It also had thick armor around the engine and cockpit to protect the pilot. Its opponent is the Nakajima Ki-27 Nate, which entered service in 1936. The Nate had an air-cooled radial engine and fixed landing gear. Its top speed was 305 miles per hour, and it was armed with one 12.7 millimeter and one 7.7 millimeter nose-mounted machine gun. The P-40 had better firepower and armor, but it was heavy and could not turn with the much lighter Japanese Nate. These fundamental differences in aircraft design philosophy were at the core of Claire Chennault's approach to dogfighting.
And the type of attacks he typically set up was to come in at high altitude, make screaming diving attacks against Japanese formations, take the energy that they built up, zoom climb up to a high altitude again, and come back around. He told his pilots, do not dogfight with the Japanese airplanes. It was certain death.
Facing a Japanese Nate head-on, Tex Hill applies these tactics. He knows the way to dogfight with a Nate is not to dogfight at all. Instead, he'll charge him with machine guns blazing. Tex Hill is here, The Nate is here. Tex will pull up into the Nate, aim towards him, and attack him head on.
I'm pulling into him, and of course I had the firepower on the head on.
The fighters close at over 600 miles per hour. The Nate peppers Tex's aircraft, but the P-40's armor plate does its job.
Eventually, the lighter armored Nate couldn't take the punishment and ended up spiraling out of control.
The Nate spirals into the jungle. The fight's over.
I had no idea where Howard and Newkirk were. I just headed right home, get out of that area.
Suddenly, Tex feels an intense vibration. His plane is shaking, unlike anything he's ever felt before.
The instruments are probably just almost shaking out of the panel itself, and he's probably wondering if he's even going to make it back to base.
He finally reaches Mingaladon Airfield, where Howard and Newkirk have also landed safely. He looks at his plane.
He shot 33 holes in my airplane. Some of his bullets stuck in my prop, and it threw the prop out of balance. And I thought the engine was coming out of the airplane.
The Flying Tigers' first offensive mission against the Japanese is a success. 4 enemy fighters destroyed in the air, 4 bombers on the ground.